So this is version 1.01 of the Amiga to Meanwell adapter board that I've done in KiCad. I've basically made quite a few modifications to it because the one I got, if I just zoom in on it, the one I got, the holes here were too small to actually, well, you can get a connector through it, but just not the kind of connector I would have liked. And I'll show that in a minute on the, this is the this is the version 1.00 here. So I've put a new connector on down there and same one on down here. I basically put the same 5-pin connector on this end, even though I only need 4 pins, because I thought if you're going to buy connectors, you don't want to buy a 4-pin and a 5-pin one. It's just easier just to buy the 5-pin ones. So I've just got a not connected pin there at the bottom, which is weird because you also have a not connected pin on the Meanwell, and you could actually connect those together and have a not connected to not connected pin, which is a bit weird. I made these cutouts a little bit bigger, like there's a few millimeters extra around these cutouts. And the same one up here. I think this got a couple of millimeters longer actually, this one, because it was way too small because it wasn't fitting in. And it did fit in, but I cut like half a millimeter off this side as well, just to make it a little bit better. Somebody suggested on the Yanbeta Discord is, well, why don't you put a fan header on it as well? And I was thinking, well, you don't really need a fan on this, but it wouldn't hurt because I've got the room, I've got a 5 volt and a 12 volt supply, and you don't have to populate these fan headers if you don't want to, but these are basically like just 2-pin versions of those. So in the end, after me saying, oh, I don't think I need to put a fan header on, I actually ended up putting 3 on because I just had room for 3. So you've got 12 volt fan up here, you've got a 5 volt fan there, just because again there was space for it and I could get it all the traces on one layer. And down here there's also another 5 volt fan just down there, again just because I could get it to fit. And I didn't want to put any over here because this is where the live neutral and earth is for the Meanwell, so I just kept everything away down there. But basically, yeah, the new upgraded version has space for 3 fans, and these connectors are bigger, so you should be able to get a bigger Molex connector in there, although the pin pitch is exactly the same. So it's quite an improvement on the old one, and hopefully it fits in without any modification to the board. So that's all really, there's the render of it, and it actually renders the connectors as well, which is quite cool. So there's the kind of connectors you'd get on if you just actually wanted those things on there. One of the things I did, which I didn't do before, the old board was so simple, so I might as well show it you on this one. This board just had, this is the old version, it's quite hard to see on there, but it just had these 4 traces going to there and then one going to here. I didn't actually bother doing a schematic for this one because I just thought, well, it's so simple, what's the point? But with this new one, even with it having 3 fan headers, just made it way more complicated. So the new one's got a schematic. Yeah, so I had to do a super basic schematic even for something as simple as 4 connectors because, yeah, turns out that ended up being actually a bit hard, but this saved so much time actually having the schematic. Yeah, once you've got the schematic in, like laying out these traces in here is just so much easier. You just connect one to the other one and it shows you where you can go to get the easiest one or whatever. So that is the new upgraded version. So yeah, the old one is going to have 2 fan headers down there, fan header there. These are the black marks I put where I was deciding where to put the fan headers. And obviously this cutout's been filed a bit on this one just to make it a bit bigger. But yeah, these should all fit. And I'm going to plate the top on this one as well when I get the new batch orders. So there'll be plates on the top here just to help it solder in easier, make it a bit stronger hopefully. There'll be plates on the top of these as well, although it doesn't really need it. Yeah, so that's the old one that's not that much use, and that's the new one on the screen. It wasn't a total loss because I've got these, like, I think these are JST XH connectors, and these connectors will actually fit in this, but I think they're only rated to carry 3 amps. So that was one of the reasons why I had to change the pinholes on this, because you need 4 amps for the 5 volt line, so this wasn't quite enough. But in theory, these little connectors do actually fit in here, and you could actually solder those in. I ended up buying this bunch of cheap connectors because I looked at the Molex connectors, and the Molex connectors are quite cheap, you know, like 20p or something. But then it's like 270 quid for the tool to crimp them, which does look like an amazing tool, but still, it's 270 quid. I don't want to spend 270 quid just to crimp 2 connectors on a PSU, so I'll take my chances with this. But in theory, yeah, you could solder those in and this would actually work fine. My PSU was already, I basically already had the wires going through that, I had a Molex connector on. So I actually just, I don't know if you can see in here, I actually just cut holes out of the bottom there, and I cut a hole, I drilled a hole in there, and I actually just sent my Molex connector underneath the board. So that's really cool. So even the prototypes, I can modify those to work, and I could just put these connectors on and just a little bit of filing here, and that will go in absolutely fine, and that will be perfectly functional. But the new one's going to be way better, and I'll have a few of those to spare, so I'll swap it out for that one when I get it. Yeah, a lot of work designing a PCB. Even a super simple one like this has basically got no real components on it. It can get complicated quite quick, but I've basically been doing it to learn, you know, how to actually use KiCad and how to design a PCB. So I've learned a lot by doing this, and I'm glad I did something really simple to start with. But that's it. So that's the old version, and this one's the new version that I'm going to get next. And this one should be, yeah, huge improvement in the fact that it'll actually fit in the case. So there we go. So that's where I'm up to with the Meanwell adapter.